evening's discussion. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. Your voice in the community, talk that get results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. If you have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized, and when you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. You can also follow the live streaming of this program on our YouTube channel at Vaughan Radio. Click subscribe, and our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, thought that get results. Tonight, two segments of the show. The first segment, we've got some great information for you, and if you take that information, it will result in great benefit. You know, as we said, this is your voice in the community. Anything about the community is right here, right? And also, whether it's religion, politics, it doesn't matter, it's right here. Tonight, though, we're going to begin with some good entertainment and some good fun. One of our favorite persons is with us, Mr. Fionn Jones. Good evening. It's good to have you once more.
Good evening, Webbo. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to come to Vaughan Radio and speak to everyone about the great news that we usually have.
Well, you're sitting in a chair that belongs to a super heavyweight, so
yes, I've been told. Yes, I've been told.
So you would have attained super heavyweight status by now. Anyway, Fionn, is good to have you.
Yes, it's good to be here.
Right, and so for those of you who do not know, tell us who you are and who you're representing at this time.
No problem. So my name is Fionn Jones. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing at the Nevis Tourism Authority, and I'm here tonight to speak to you about an interesting event that we have coming up this December.
The Nevis Tourism Authority function on a day-to-day basis is what?
On a day-to-day basis, we are promoting and marketing the destination outwards to all of the tourists. We are constantly encouraging persons to come to Nevis and spend a couple nights, as we call it, heads in beds. And that is our main function, to market Nevis and all of the products that we offer here on the island.
The Nevis Tourism Authority.
Yes.
I asked a taxi operator the other day, because every now and then I go sometimes all over the place, you know, so every now and then I go in and check in with my partners down at the taxi stand, and say, well, how's when does the season start?
Okay, so the season has already started. It starts November and it goes all the way until April. We would have released the calls for the cruise ships that we have coming here, so you could see that on social media. And also for the new year, right now we're planning with the budget, etc. We have some very interesting initiatives that are coming online for 2024 that will help spruce up tourism in Nevis.
Okay, and so the season so far, because you would have had your bookings ahead of time, how does it look in comparison with last season?
Last season was a good season, and next season promises to be an even better season. One of the great things that we have going for us for next year will be the 10th anniversary of the Mango Festival, so that's going to be a very big event. In addition to that, we have the Cultural Arm of 50, and that also plans to be a very big event. We've already checked with some of the hotels on the island, and their bookings next year look very strong and promising, so it's going to be a good one.
As you mentioned, the Mango Festival this year was, well, I don't want to describe it myself, but I heard it was overbooked.
I wouldn't say overbooked.
Well, that's why I did. But what would you say?
Essentially, yes, we understand, and we hear some of the cries of some of the persons. They didn't have the best experience. That would be about 4% when we worked out the maths. And we've since reached out to those persons, we've spoken to them, and we've put measures in place to them. And the next time we're going to come and we're going to start to market Mango Festival, but we've solved all of the kinks that we've seen this year. Thankfully, what we saw this year is nothing that we can't resolve for next year. So next year promises to be even bigger and better for Mango Festival.
Okay, great. And you know, the like I said, to me, it was a kind of news that was good.
Yeah.
Because when you have an event and you exceed your expectations,
Yeah.
some folks are going to be that dissatisfied, and you get that, and you apologize.
Yes,
but then you move on, and then you say, "Well, this thing is mega now." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and one of the things I want to stress on, and I think we're going to do an even better job at that this year, is that Mango Festival was created to extend the tourism season, and it was also created to highlight the local Nivision chefs and give them a platform to display their talents. One of the things, as well, as I said earlier about tourism, we're encouraging persons to come and stay and experience Nevis. And unfortunately, we didn't get to tell the full story of the success of Mango Festival, given that we had estimation of around 2.5 to 3,000 persons. That's a lot of persons. We didn't expect that, and it's a Mango Festival. That's one. Two, the neighboring islands supported, and they supported well. We had persons obviously from the sister island St. Kitts, we had Antigua and Barbuda, we had Sabre, Statia, Anguilla, Barbados. All of those neighboring islands, St. Martin, came to Nevis for Mango Festival. So essentially, the event did what it was supposed to do. You're speaking about taxi rentals, water taxi, airplane, boats, Airbnb, hotel bookings. So it's a very big economic booster, and that one event did that. So there was a lot of success in that event. Yes, we had some minor issues that we have to solve, but we will solve them for next year. But overall, Mango Festival is getting bigger and better, and we want to encourage everyone next year to come out to the 10th staging of the Mango Festival.
What I find is happening but it always seemingly is that way. But of late, it seems as if the negativity, no matter how minuscule it is, seems to, get the big. And I don't know why. Maybe I don't know if it's a different thinking or trend of folks. But the negativity has always been there.
Yeah.
And that is why I didn't seem too depressed when it was mentioned there were some kinks in it.
Well,
because I know that there's always be stuff when you're doing stuff, and
Exactly.
and then that's the idea. The kinks that you have, you learn and you make it greater next time.
Bingo. And that's one of the things I'm going to say. When you have negativity, it actually gives you the chance to improve. It depends on how you take it. We sat down and we took it, and it was well covered, and we have since gone and we see what we need to put in place to improve it. So yes, in this world there's a lot of negativity, and sometimes the negativity gets pushed way further than the positive, but it's all about how you interpret and take things, and we took it the right way, and we're going to improve Mango Festival for the 10th staging. So thank you everyone for the feedback.
So overall, the Nevis Tourism Authority,
Yes.
coming out of the COVID and all that, you're solid.
Yes, I think so. Our partners are pleased. We have a lot of initiatives that we're going to roll out for 2024. 2023 has been a good year in relations to what we've done on the ground and overseas. We recently would have completed a roadshow joint with St. Kitts in the UK. And prior to that, we also completed a roadshow in the US, given that we have a new airlift for JetBlue from JFK to Rochester. So yes.
And you're doing different methods of advertising now.
We're doing a lot of different things.
Direct advertising.
Influencers, PR, A lot of the articles you see out there, news as relates to Nevis, it's a lot of things that we
You have a lot of repeat visitors.
Yes, we do.
And the best form of advertising, right?
Trying our best.
Okay, so we have covered that,
Hmm.
and so we are doing a specific event tonight.
Yes, we are. So the event, if I may speak about this one, is called Nothing Like a Nivision Holiday. This was created during COVID about 4 years ago, and obviously COVID is when the world essentially would have came to a standstill, and the NTA thought it best to bring the holiday season to everyone. Now, I'm not certain, Webbo, if you love Christmas or you like Christmas time, but this is one of my favorite times of the year. I remember growing up, I actually lived in Cotton Grove up until the age of 7, then I moved to Newcastle, but I remember growing up in these neighborhoods, and you would see Santa, you would drink sorrel, ginger beer, eat black cake and all those great things, and this is something that the NTA is going to bring together for one afternoon of enjoyment for the entire family. It's a family friendly event. For the adults, it's only $10. For children 12 to 17, it's only $5, and children under 12, it's completely free. This event is going to be held on December 9th at the Nevis Heritage Village in Gingerland, and it's going to be a very good staging, the 4th staging of Nothing Like a Nivision Holiday. One of the interesting part about this event, though, it will be live streamed, so it's more of a production for persons who unfortunately cannot make it to Nevis. They too can join our Facebook or YouTube, and you get to watch the production of Nothing Like a Nivision Holiday.
I was seeing one of your posters,
Yes.
highlighting and advertising the event. When people do that, a lot of the times, what they're actually doing, they're putting what they think is their highlight to impress, and so that they like their bestseller out front. And when I look at the poster, the things that are highlighted, well, you can't please everybody. I get that, but I notice you have things like string band and Christmas carols. Steel band music and so on, masquerade. But I'm kind of a little disappointed there are no clowns.
Come and see. Come and see. Yeah, we're not going to put everything on the poster.
Yeah, but walk with me. I preface what I was saying by indicating that you put your best sellers out front.
That's true.
Right? You're doing a show, and it's at the complex. You're going to have me, you're going to have Edric and stuff like that. When you put us, you won't get much people. But if you say starring Tina Turner,
you get a lot of people.
This is what I'm saying. So I'm just thinking.
Okay, that's noted. No, well, if I may elaborate.
It says, and much more, but so I just like to know then, if the clowns are included in the much more.
Much more, you have to come out. I'm going to speak on some of the additions that we have.
Okay, but that might be the big thing, the secret.
I can't give out the secret here. I can't give out the secret here.
Okay.
But one of the things I do want to say is you're going to have some lovely steel pan. We all love steel pan music. It's very soothing. We're going to also
that is very popular these days on the island. A lot of people are doing it, right?
Yes, it's very soothing. I myself love to hear steel pan. Love to hear it. Yeah,
and a lot of women are playing.
Yes,
the steel pan.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. We're also going to have the string band. I love the string band. I have memories of them when they used to come around during Christmas time, and they would go to different homes, etc., and they would play the string band, and you would come out and you give them money, etc., and it was always a good time. For me, that is how I told Christmas was right around the corner, when you're hearing the string band music.
That is an interesting point
Mm-hmm.
that you make, because you're in the category of young fellas, young folk, and you are highlighting that.
Yes.
And maybe it's not a debate for here,
Mm-hmm.
but in the larger scheme of things,
Mm-hmm.
the string band is not so present.
I really hope that we could do something
Right.
about it.
And I like a good debate,
Mm-hmm.
and I would like to debate that point, because where it is not in the other areas,
Mm-hmm.
they give the excuse
Mm-hmm.
by saying that people don't want to hear it. And then, to hear you, and I'm sure that you have your peers
Mm-hmm.
who have the same view as you of the string band.
Mm-hmm.
And so you wonder if it is sometimes because people can do certain things or can't get it done, they say, well, it's not needed or something. Because the string band is...
I would say one of the things that we do need to work on is passing down the tradition better. Even currently with the string band, it's mostly dominated with, I want to say, more seasoned persons. I'm not seeing a take up in relations to the younger crowd actually playing in the string bands, and I think that could be it, because a lot of people usually relate to people who are similar to them. So if they're seeing more younger people playing string band, that may actually bridge the gap.
But you see, you said a magic word earlier, and the magic word was work.
Well, okay.
You got to, whatever you do, you got to put the work into it.
That is true.
And the work doesn't necessarily mean manual labor.
No.
It can be strategic,
It can be
work,
strategic.
right? So maybe this little discussion, this going off on the side of a little bit, maybe that'll help. Because
back another time,
yeah,
yeah,
so, like I said, I like a good debate. So what else you gonna have?
Okay, so we're also going to have the Reigning King, Delhi, and performances by Speedy as well. So that's going to be good. We're going to have the Big Drum, Masquerade, Maka Jumbi. We're also going to have the Rhythm Dance Theater. And I've been told that Santa may make an appearance, so I just want the kids to come out. Who knows, NTA may have some special gifts for the children, and it's going to be overall a great time. We're going to have some very old school games like pitching marble. We're going to play cricket, stuff like that. I'm not certain if everyone remembers how to pitch marbles, but we'll have a demonstration as well. And knocks included as well.
When we do the second segment, we'll give them a lesson in pitching marble.
Yes.
Because someone is going to be on. If he knows how to fly a plane, he knows how to pitch marbles. So you don't worry about that part.
Yes.
Yep. So, and this is all happening at where?
At the Nevis Heritage Village, December 9th. The event starts at 2 p.m. and the live stream starts at 3. And overall the event ends at 7. It's going to be a great day, a day for family. You get the whole Christmas feeling. So this is, let's say, the introduction to the Christmas season. Come out, drink your sorrel, your ginger beer. We're going to have bread making demonstration, all that good stuff, and the good food that usually comes along.
Do you have any sarsaparilla?
Yeah, at this point, I could say yes.
Well, if you want any more, let me know, because I engaged some for somebody and they didn't take it. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's going to make it there if you give me sarsaparilla. It may not make it there.
You may not make it there. That New Vision Heritage Village.
Yes.
One spectacular place, right?
It's absolutely lovely.
You recommend people who haven't seen it should see it?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, it forms a part of our tours when we bring people on island. The New Vision Heritage basically shows you Nevis life from back then to now, and it shows how much we have progressed and moved forward as a society. Something very humbling, and that I think everyone should see and witness.
The day is the What day it is? Is it a weekend? What?
Yes, it's on a Saturday. So at this point, I want to also encourage all my brothers and sisters from St. Kitts to come on over. We all know Nevis is the vibe. So come on over for the weekend. You don't have to go back on that Saturday. You could actually spend the weekend in Nevis.
And it's a whole. It starts in the morning and the afternoon.
So it starts at 2 p.m. and it goes right down to 7 p.m. December 9th, Saturday, December 9th at the Nevis Heritage Village. For adults, $10. For children 12 to 17, $5. And children under 12, it's absolutely free. Again, I've been told that Santa may make an appearance and we're going to have some gifts for children, so you could bring the entire family out and have a good festive time. We're bringing back how the holiday season used to be back in the day. It's a nostalgic feeling.
Okay, well, that's nothing like a Division holiday.
Yes, hosted by the Nevis Tourism Authority.
Okay, always good to have you.
Always a pleasure coming.
We wish you all the very best and success with that. String band, stuff like that. But, you know, I kind of sad. I hope they have clowns.
The clowns? Okay. I'll go back and I'll have a discussion internally. So, but you should come out and play some cricket and probably pitch some marble. I don't know. I want to see if you remember those days.
Yeah, well, cricket, I know a little thing.
Okay.
Marbles, if I'm to say so myself,
you were good.
Real good.
Well, come on over and have some food. If you can't do all that, come on over, have some food, and just enjoy the atmosphere. We promise that it's going to be a very good event, very nostalgic, and you're going to have a very good time and enjoy the feeling of a Division holiday. To persons who unfortunately cannot make it, tune into our live stream, and you're going to have that good feeling just like you're here. So we welcome one and all.
Okay. Fionn Jones, the marketing director of the Nevis Tourism Authority.
Yes.
It's always good to have you.
Always a
and
pleasure.
Every success with the event.
Thank you.
Fionn Jones. We're back with our second segment of the program right after this.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts or call them at 466-4938.
3 acres of elevated vacant land is up for sale. It is conveniently located on the Port Road overlooking the Bath Cemetery with a spectacular view of Charlestown on a clear day. Call Stanley's Real Estate for more information or for serious inquiries at 869-665-5634 or 869-469-3868.
Power from the tower. This is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean. VON Radio from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Back on this episode of Talk That Get Results with our second segment. Our first segment featured Fionn Jones, the marketing director of the Nevis Tourism Authority, with promoting an event and nothing like a Division holiday. You want to try and check it out. This second segment, Conrad Nair-Liburd, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to Mr. Stanley and to your hard-working staff here at Phone Radio. Good evening to everyone who is tuned to this program, near and far, my friends in Toronto and Connecticut and St. Croix. I welcome you once again to this very informative program. Webbo, as you know, that I always cherish these moments to converse and be part of the national debate, and so I'm encouraging everyone to be a part of this discussion tonight. I want to say thank you for having us within your department, your home, wherever, as you often do on a Tuesday evening. Webbo, without any further ado, I'll say thanks for having me once again.
Edric W. Stanley, good evening. And before when you make your introduction, and before you go on to any particular topic, I have a question for you. Go ahead.
Well, good evening, my fellow panelists. Good evening to the people of St. Kitts and more particularly gracious people of Nevis. Those who would be listening to us this evening on the World Wide Web, Facebook and YouTube, as the case might be. Well, there is much to offer, and as a result, we will get through to the program. So, without further ado, good evening, Webbo.
Okay, so what I wanted to ask you was, we had an earlier segment, and they were speaking about some events of old that they will be having at this particular event, and the young man mentioned that they'll be pitching marbles. So he was wondering whether or not a lot of people remembered how to pitch that, and I told him, well, not to worry, because I know somebody who will be coming on next who used to pitch marbles and can teach people how. That person I had in my mind was you. Am I correct?
You're correct, Webbo. You're correct, absolutely. The thing is that we used to have a different phase of the game. We would dig a hole and we would count as to how often you can get from where you are. The fact that we lead up to a crease and then we, from the crease, we would lead back to the hole which was dug to, in fact, get our marbles from wherever we are, wherever we led down, to successfully get your marble into that hole, and we would come from 1 to 12. Whoever reaches 12 first wins the game.
And you're not going to tell me that among your peers you are the best or one of the best?
Well, listen, everything I do, I put a lot of effort into, and as a result, I get good results. So, whether you going to classify me as one of the best?
No, what I was doing, I wasn't there when you were pitching marbles. So I'm asking you, as a consequence of you playing marbles with your peers, were you considered to be one of the best?
Right,
the best?
That is correct.
Okay, so
that is correct.
So that goes without saying.
Exactly. So
okay, so that's enough of that. What else we got?
Okay, I have on my list integrity in public life, and I believe back in 1992, simply because I participated in the political process in another jurisdiction, I brought to the fore the idea of disclosure of assets, and that seemingly is the bedrock on which the legislation which was aired today in the House of Assembly became part of. So, as I expounded in the past on that disclosure of assets, it has been expanded, modified, and ultimately implemented to the extent where it has now become an integral part of our process, administrative, legal, and I dare say maybe legislative, if I didn't process. However, based on the debate today, there were some semantics at the same time. The Premier, Mark Brantley, has been touting the idea of who should be opposite, coming from opposite, and how that person should become part of the process. However, my view is that I think they got it right. The Governor General should weigh in and appoint somebody, but with the confusion we have regarding the ill-fated election we have had on the other side, things have not been clearly defined as to how they would go forward, and consequently the bill that was expounded upon didn't really go that far with reference to how the process should play out. But the House is functioning and the players are there. You've got the government on the one side and you've got the opposition on the other side. Members of the opposition, maybe not, in my view, clearly defined, but at the same time, they are functioning. So, again, predicated on the disclosure of assets, in my view, is the current bill that was debated in the House of Assembly today. Webbo.
Naya.
To be quite honest, I'm not privy to the proceedings today, and I'm not very happy to say that, I must say, because I was in the field and attending other functions today. But I must say that it is such an important development that such a bill be actually passed. Such a bill should be, to me, in our environment here, political environment here in Nevis and regionally, that should be part of our political experience. I don't want to say that there is, but there is that perception that corruption is a part of our political settings here in the Federation and regionally. I think the African continent have gathered a bad reputation in that regards, and it seems to me that that piece of legislation is of fundamental importance But there are ways, and I hope those who have penned the legislation have really, and I've got such confidence because, of course, we are very thoughtful people, but there are always ways in which people can find their way around the legislation. And that is something that is very worrying. The legislation, to me, in effect, is like the police policing the police, which is a good thing. And I hope that some kind of what can I say? Something can take place with that unevenness or that problem we have on the opposition bench, so that this legislation can really see the light of day, because it is so important that the public feel at ease as it relates to public funds and the way public funds are dealt with by elected representatives, those on the government side. It's a legislation that basically underpins the notion that you cannot, in an unlawful or illegal way, turn from rags to riches because you are in such position of government that you can manipulate things in a way to enrich yourself. So it is something that, to me, it is fundamentally important to the public that this legislation see the light of day. And not only that, but it has the kind of consequence written in it that spares no one. But that's only part of it. We would also hope that when those people who decide to do what they want and fall foul of the legislation, that there should be serious consequences, and those who are responsible to bringing them to the fore, bringing them to the legal places, to court, has no hiccups about it. It is with great admiration that I see leaders of different countries, prime ministers, they find themselves in courts, and they are there because they fall foul of what is the law in their country, and they are that independent of the judiciary that they cannot escape the hands of the law. And I would like to see such things happening in our little country. Just this weekend I read in the newspaper, and a past politician was tried and convicted. And to me, that is a good example. But sometimes we realize that even though there is a legislation and the law has been breached by high official, the necessary body that exists to bring that under the Justice Department fails to do so. And so they get away with a lot of stuff. So I, as a member of the public, will truly like to see adherence to, first, the legislation see the light of day in terms of, becomes law, and adherence must be given to the stipulation of the legislation. And in breach of that, one shouldn't be spared at all. And so, whatever it takes, I know it's something that is difficult to figure out, but it looks like the problem we are experiencing in the opposition becomes an impediment to good governance, and that's a fact. And so I will hope, as a member of the public, that they would get their act together, or if there is some authority that can do something, that legislation like these that have such requirements that the opposition must, must be well defined, to make sure that that takes place, because to me it's really hurting the country, it's hurting the masses, because the masses don't want to have that perception that they are ripped off, that public funds have been squandered in such ways, and politicians are moving from rags to riches overnight. Because if such things happen, we basically destroy our political culture, and anything can happen after that, I suppose. Stanley?
Well, based on what I know, it is a vital piece of legislation which keeps tab, which keeps a score as to what you originally was, and ultimately, if you have spent 2 5-year terms in that office, we know what your salary or purse was, and we can do the math to in fact figure out if you've been living up to the mandate or the letter of the law with reference to your net assets. So the legislation is of vital importance to the extent where we understand that it is a guiding light by which the integrity of those who are in public office are held to account. So it is a good idea for that piece of legislation to have been brought to the fore and implemented. They have amended certain aspects of it in this last sitting of the House of Assembly, but at the same time, again, it is a yardstick or a barometer by which one must be measured, and as a result, the office holders shake in their boots simply because it's like a flashlight shining into that dark area, and as a consequence, you have to be upright and steadfast. And as a result, we are on the right path for good governance within our nation and country. So that integrity bill, integrity in public life, is of course of paramount importance regarding the conduct of public officials in public office, handling public funds, distribution of public funds, as the case might be. Now, integrity, it's a broad definition. It's a word that has broad definition. And of course, if you have integrity, you will conduct yourself accordingly. So let us strive to ensure that the legislation that has been present and promulgated, it serves its rightful purpose and role in terms of keeping our people in public office, not only as elected officials, but also I think it covers permanent secretaries also. But again, it is quite instructive for that piece of legislation to go from its current state to a modified state to make sure or to ensure that the people in public office understand what they must do and should do with reference to adherence to the law. Webbo.
Yes, Mr. Sally, I think we're on the same page as to the legislation, that particular piece of legislation. And you said that you have extended to permanent secretary as well. Yes, I'm just adherence is important. You know, it really and truly is not too difficult to find your way around it. You know, at the end of the day, but again, as the bill is entitled, integrity. You know, it to me calls upon elected official to have, you know, such integrity within themselves that they don't even attempt to or approach that fence and attempt to jump over it. You know, as we say, the process of democracy asks that people still should be, in a sense, morally upright. If they are not, then, you know, even the democratic process becomes something that is less worthy than it really should be. But I think we cannot. You know, every election we vote for people, but how much we really trust them in a personal way. At the end of the day, you might trust them for the first few years or first 5 years. When they're doing 10 and 15 years, then you really start to see lots of stuff, you know, happening. You know, and to me, I see things here on the island which I wish wasn't really happening. I am very, very concerned about the way public funds are dealt with here in Nevis, because, you know, we see little things that we wish could be completed. I personally see a lack of funds within the government, you know, arena, put it that way. You know, the way I see certain things that are developing, and you know, from my point of view, the way they should be developing, the speed at which certain things that are taking place, the unfinished things here and there. And I do believe here on Ireland that there is a degree of slackness, you know, as it relates to public funds. I personally can't put my finger, and I won't put my finger anywhere, but it is something that of great concern. We really call it corruption, you know. We really call it corruption, and I don't think no political party, you know, is spared from what I'm saying. It's spared from what I'm saying, because I'm old enough to have experienced one government and the other government, you know, and all that I'm asking is that those who hold office and deal with public funds to be very careful and make sure that the public benefits first, you know, from the tax they pay, from the revenue that government collects from them. You know, we expect a reward in terms of whatever service that makes life more worthwhile, more complete. And sometimes I think there's such leakages that is taking place. You know, I hope the bill extend to all this, but, you know, I got great doubts. You know, because as I said, there's many ways I suppose you can get around these kind of legislation, you know, in these little countries and in those big countries as well. But more honesty, and more carefulness, simply more carefulness, when it comes to public funds, when it comes to dishing out even contracts to people, more carefulness, and I'm sure, that they know what I'm talking about. We all know what I'm talking about, but it's a political culture that sometimes you got to manage in such way that those who have propped you up, you got to prop them back up, But you got to be careful to the extent which you do that, and remember that public funds are there to make the public a better served public, and so it's a legislation that have its shortcomings, but we are still asking, as a member of the public, that public funds, apart from what you had owned and you declare what you have owned before you go into government, we are still asking that the administration, that's a better word, the administration of public funds should be done with more scrutiny, with more carefulness, with more equality, that the vast member of the public, the general public, can be better served.
The meaning of the word integrity, but in addition to public life, has a much wider application than meets the eye, because as the legislation has been promulgated to the extent where it's a guiding principle, people tend to become more responsible with this kind of legislation implemented. It shouldn't be, but fortunately, as the legislation has been put forward, it's now in the House of Assembly as law. The recipient or the holders of these offices got to become more responsible, and I believe because of the ramifications, far-reaching consequences, people who are holders of these public office understand the practical application of the term integrity in public life.
Are you gentlemen aware that this thing has been in effect for a while?
Quite so. But it has been tweaked, modified.
You know what the tweeting was all about in the last sitting?
Not really well,
Okay.
but I would.
Would you like to know?
Yes, I am.
The tweeting was about the fact that it was about to be renewed because the first term of the current officers has expired or is about to expire, and the legislation, the ordinance in its direction says that there should be 3 appointed members, and it gives you the condition under which you will have the chairperson and the other person nominated by the leader of the opposition and the other person by the premier, and I think the chairperson by deputy governor on the advice of the premier, something to that effect. But what the whole issue today and the day before was about, there was the revelation that it was not properly constituted because there is no leader of the opposition. And Mr. Brantley, who is the premier, thought, well, based on what the requirement was, they should amend it so that it can take effect. So I think they amended it to suggest, to say that since there is no leader of the opposition to appoint someone else, then this is how the other member should be appointed. And it suggested that the premier, in consultation, or in consultation with members of the opposition, right, will advise the Deputy Governor General. The opposition seems to have a problem with that, because one of the arguments they make is that the premier is trying to give himself more power, and that served the basis of the whole argument. So it was not the substantive matter of the integrity in public life, but the premier is arguing that he is trying to get the country run as it should in a constitutional way, but the opposition is arguing that he's just looking power. So the debate was interesting in that the government side is arguing, we're in here because you can't get your house in order. If you had a leader of the opposition, then you appoint one, and that is where it was. So that is what the last hurrah was all about.
The practical application of that meaning, it is very far-reaching, and it not only speaks to the monetary aspects of the holder of the office, but also it speaks to the way the holder of the office or holders of these offices carry themselves in public. They behave a certain way based on the legislation, should behave a certain way, and consequently to demonstrate that integrity in public life, the application is based on the individuals, and therefore they must adhere to certain fundamental principles.
Now, what do you make of the amendment in the premier, as he is suggesting, is trying to make the language in the ordinance be able to fit the current situation? Because as it stood, and as other ordinances, if they were leader of the opposition, and the point was made, the framers of the Constitution did not seem to be able to have anticipated that you will have that you would have, this situation coming up. And as I was listening, I was thinking, the same way you had two persons, because there are only 5 seats, and you have two persons who make up the opposition, and they couldn't decide who should be the leader. So there is no leader. What if the party that won 3 seats, what if they couldn't decide who should be the leader as well? Then what?
Webbo, that's...
My question is ignorant or far-fetched?
No.
Okay, so what if?
No, Webbo. I can see the basis of quite a lively debate, given what you just tell me that the Allen administration are trying to do. They're trying to adjust the integrity in public life bill or ordinance to fit the current situation which exists. That is, there is no leader of the opposition. Isn't that a case whereby we are taking a step that is a bit into the Constitution, or what one would consider to be constitutional law? That ordinance would be in effect stepping over or affecting the stipulation of the Constitution?
Not necessarily. Remember, the ordinance or the rules were made.
Yes.
In order to acquire a particular goal.
Yes.
Or objective. Now, when these ordinances are made, and there are certain things that are in the Constitution, it's like when you're making an argument and certain things is a given. Certain things are expected. But then, not so. So in other words, it is expected that if you, like when you had your party now, and let's say there were 2 or 3 members, and you won the majority of the seats, it is expected that you will form the government because you have the majority, and then it gives you the stipulations, etc., etc. What they did not cater for is that you won the majority of the seats, but you cannot decide amongst yourself, well, who will be the boss? But the stipulations and the procedure stated that it is understood that these persons who are of a certain, can I use integrity, which you all are using all night? Yeah. Integrity and moral standings and reasonableness will be able to organize themselves, correct?
Yes.
But that is not happening. So as a consequence, you now have to put in different language to make allowance for these other options. What if, for instance, the same Constitution had said, and going forward, were you to have a new Constitution, would it be necessary then to say, if the members who do not form the government cannot organize themselves in a grouping, well, let's go back to the polls and see if we can find another set of persons who can organize themselves. And to the point that I asked about the government, if they couldn't organize themselves, because don't forget, it's not so far-fetched and ridiculous, because in the United States, you know what's happening with the Republicans. They have the majority and they can't get themselves organized. So these things happen. The only difference is that these are things that hitherto we didn't expect to happen, because people don't normally behave that way. No?
That is true, Webbo. But Webbo, it has its consequence, and that maybe felt somewhere along the road, down the road. In terms of adjusting the wording of the ordinance to fit the situation that exists. It seems to me, Webbo, that you would come in conflict. It is a wording now that says something that bring about a situation that didn't exist, that the Constitution never catered for.
Well, let me ask you this then, Naya. Okay, you're making an interesting point. So, what would have been an alternative?
Webbo, I maybe can't think about it, an alternative at this moment, but what is happening can be so damaging, okay? I'm more thinking of the consequence, because yes, of course, the integrity of public life is very important. But you can always point to the reason why.
But let me ask you
it's
this.
Not in effect, and that particular reason why.
Of the other ordinances, and of the other areas that may be in the Constitution that speaks to a function of the leader of the opposition, then what? And or, if I go back to my hypothetical, what if you cannot organize yourself in the government? And what happens to the function of what the Constitution says ought to be carried out by the leader of government?
As I say,
because one can make a theoretical argument that if Edric's party was successful and he had 2 seats and he couldn't get you organized with him to form the opposition, one can reasonably argue, cannot they, that were you to gain 3 seats, you might not have been able to form the government either. Correct?
Quite so.
Right. So then what?
Well, based on the fact that we are thinking people, the Honorable Mark Brantley may have studied this enough to the point where
we are speaking about
a hypothetical
generic. If you want to speak about a specific case, you can go ahead, but I was speaking about generic stuff.
Well, we have to be practical, and the situation is right here currently, and therefore we should make reference to it in its application. So, based on what I am understanding, is that the wording sort of by the Honorable Premier been modified or brought to the fore to fit and to suit and to make sense of the current situation. So when one picks up, let's say, the writing becomes applicable in the ordinance, which ultimately it will, when one picks up the ordinance and reads it, they would see the practical application of the wording that would fit the current situation.
You know, Webbo, I think it's a great gesture by the island administration. I must compliment them on that. I think it's a great gesture. They got to keep moving, keep walking, but they tread carefully, though.
Dio, let me take this and we'll continue. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for holding. Good evening.
Good night. Turn off my radio. Good night to Webbo. Hello.
Good night.
You're on the air. Could you go ahead?
Yes. What was the result from the meeting? Was somebody appointed as the leader of the opposition?
No. It wasn't for that. It was they were addressing the integrity in public life, which the ordinance spoke to the leader of the opposition recommending or having, the option of appointing one member. And since there was no leader of the opposition, what they did, they amended the ordinance to say...
alternately, I mean, the logical thing would have been to give it to the person who was a party behind, huh? Should have been the NRP leader. Or you have 4 more years left? One serve two, one serve two. Because a similar thing exists in St. Kitts,
Yeah, but who you would suggesting should have given it to the NRP leader?
Only the governor one could do that.
You are suggesting that the governor should do that, but the legislation does not give the governor the authority to do that.
Well, just like it can be done like what they had meeting yesterday, because the AG is the one, I think, the only one who could make changes to the constitution, sir.
Right. So what I'm asking is, so
yours be him.
Right.
You ask the question, right? I'm telling you.
You're suggesting that they should have
come to Parliament.
You're suggesting they should have amended the ordinance to give the power of appointing the other person to the Governor General or the Deputy Governor General.
Yeah.
And that is what they were doing on the advice of the Premier. Work with me, caller.
Yeah, go ahead.
I am telling you what it was because you say you didn't know. On the advice of the Premier, having consulted with the members of the opposition.
So what did they agree on? Anything?
No, it passed.
Because a similar thing happening in St. Kitts, we have 5 persons on the opposition benches. 2 seem to have nothing to do with the other 3. You notice that? Mr. Branson is the leader of the opposition, but his party seemed not to have any communication with the other 2 parties on the bench. So the question is, who represent the other 2 parties on the opposition bench? Is there any communication? Because there could be, and we don't know.
Well, that is what I was about to ask, because you said seem not to be.
Yeah, the word seem.
Right, so, that doesn't, suggest there is a factual situation of that.
Because when you're listening, so, you say, well, but really, there is no real leader of the opposition, because he's leading too, but there's also 2 he's not leading.
But there's a leader.
Yeah?
But there's a leader.
He is.
No, I'm saying, but there is a leader of the
There's a
opposition.
leader, but there seems to be no coordination.
And that's what lacking in Nevis. There isn't any leader over here.
That's the same thing I'm saying. We got to get around it. To me, in the state parliament, whether they want to or not, the 5 members on the opposition benches have got to coordinate their responses.
I don't know.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I don't know what is meant by
But
coordinate.
he's the leader of the opposition, which means he's leader of the 4. And if there seem to be no coordination, no communication between the 2 and his 2, then actually they could get up and oppose anything he say. Now yesterday, let me continue yesterday. Yesterday Mr. Brantley made some good remarks about the one they were trying to shut out all access to government information. That is what it was, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Everything is prohibited. Government policy and all of those stories there. Mr. Brantley made to me a proper interjection, and the AG seemed to just ignore it. And the AG went on to say, well, with the journalists or the media, it does not make any sense to try to get the information to the Freedom of Information Act, because if it is prohibited in that act, then it makes no sense. So he suggests to me you put everything under this one with a special covering, and then what? Well, all you're doing is encouraging more leaking, you know. You don't see so? But there's no leaking as that. Because some of the things that they're trying to cover should not be, as Mr. Brantley said, sensitive information on the government, military, you know what I mean? But when you start to try to put everything under there, then what kind of government do we have? I mean, seriously, what kind of government do we have? The example they bring in, those are inconsequential. They're talking about the one. They cannot give any information on the concessions given in contracts. We should know. Because when you go and give away half of the country, all kind of concessions that our people don't get, our private sector, small, medium enterprises don't get. But shouldn't we know? Some of the things that they're saying, I say, you all can't be serious. Well, the more you try to cover down, the more the cover will blow off, you know. And this one about the cabinet thing. When Mr. Brantley was preaching it, was saying, when I was in cabinet. Well, it's only people in cabinet who bring out cabinet business. All of them, farmer one, farmer. They just say, when I was in cabinet, this only they could bring it out. The Prime Minister himself now could bring it out. So to me, trying to shut down access to any government information, to me is a waste of time. Because how things go, our systems are so insecure. Somebody could be about to hack the whole system. They thought about that? Have you thought about that? So, you know, I really think they need to take another look, because to me, Mr. Brantley was making a good point. But then they went ahead and passed it. So, I mean, they have to do better, much better than that. All right, then.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I think we were on two.
Yeah, I was saying, Webbo, that I think it's a very clever move and meaningful and worthwhile move from the island administration to amend the ordinance to fit, you know, the impasse that exists within the opposition. But I can see it also generating a lot of debate, But the alternative, Webbo, is hard to think of, to be quite honest. But I think it can be seen as a politically driven move from the NRP's point of view. And but again, if an alternative cannot be presented, or there's no way they can have a chance to really even present an alternative, but it's a clever move. It's a worthwhile move. It's a move that tend to even push the NRP back against the wall even more, and really giving them the blame for a lot of things that can happen without the proper without Parliament, the Nevis Island Administration Parliament working in a proper way as it relates to the Integrity in Public Life Bill. I think I can't see no other option, Webbo, at this point, really. If it's fair that the ordinance wording should be adjusted, that the Premier, in consultation with the opposition and the Deputy Governor General making that choice, I can see where the opposition will feel like the Premier is empowering himself. But when I stop to think about it, I really at this point cannot see no option. But I can see where it can be easily seen as a political driven move.
Let me ask you this, Naya. So we're doing this show and we discuss topics every night, and we say, okay, so what we will do is before we start the show or before we select the panel members, and we say what happened, the host will introduce topics and he will have the first option. The panel members will also get an opportunity to introduce topics, and after the host or whatever, and then we go on like that, and people are able to put things on the table. And so we had Mr. Hobson and we had Mr. Hull, and so they come and they put their in the table. I am hosting and I put stuff on the table. Then after the year is finished, we change the panel members and we attempt to continue govern operating by the same rules. Are you following me?
Yes.
Yes. We retire Mr. Hobson and Mr. Hull, and we bring in Mr. Liebert, Naya and Mr. Stanley. And when I try to operate by the same rules, both you and Mr. Stanley decide that you're not putting anything on the table. I said, but okay, so if you're not putting anything on the table, we are dealing with 6 topics tonight, then I'll have to put all 6. You said, no, well, you not putting all 6 because you just want all the power to put on all the 6. I said, but you put down 2, well, I'm not putting down any. So maybe I have to change the rules then.
Yes.
To suit you.
That's one option.
Or maybe I should change you.
Yeah.
And bring back Hobson and Hull.
Great hypothetical analysis, Webbo. And I think that's per great understanding as to the real situation. Great hypothetical analysis. You can't change the people, they are elected representative. So you can only change the rule. And that's what the island administration been attempting to do.
Let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening. Isn't the intent of the
Integrity?
No, the appointee for the opposition to be a check and balance on that integrity commission? Isn't that what the Constitution intended? If that is so, if it is a check and balance against the concentration of power, then shouldn't whatever is done reflect that? I agree if you look at the strict letter of the law, that since there is no opposition leader, then that person cannot be appointed. But whatever solution to that impasse should result not in a concentration of power in the premier's hands, but it should favor the opposition. And certainly when you think of opposition in Nevis, most people say NRP, without a second thought.
Okay, caller,
Yeah.
what would be an example in this instance of it favoring the opposition?
If the NRP leader was allowed to appoint that person.
Allowed to appoint that person by who?
Well, ultimately, and all the appointments, the Governor General, the Deputy, or the Deputy Governor General?
No, the Deputy Governor General.
Even on the advice of, but ultimately the Governor General.
Caller.
Yeah.
You are making a suggestion of what should be done, right? So I'm asking you to give us an example. So you do not know how it is done then? That's what you're saying?
Don't know how what is done.
Okay, let's go over it again. You said that it should not be done the way it was done today, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What would you suggest and how would you suggest it be done?
I think that that should have been the prerogative of somebody like the Governor General or the Deputy Governor General in the circumstances. Because isn't the role of the Deputy Governor General a sort of, shall we say tempering influence as well?
Do you have an example of the Governor General or the Deputy Governor General in our operations doing things without the advice of, let's say, the Premier or the Prime Minister?
There has been, and there has been consequences for them.
No, walk with me. Walk with me.
Yeah.
Do you know of any such stipulation?
A stipulation?
Yes.
In the Constitution?
Yes, or elsewhere?
No.
Okay. So, walk with me. So, you are saying now that the Governor, Deputy Governor General, or the General, in this case, must go outside of the realm of the dictates or the workings of the Constitution, and then give the leader of the NRP the power to operate in this ordinance.
Yes.
Okay, I got you.
Yes, because otherwise you have what you have now.
I got you.
Okay.
Okay.
But I would have thought, though, in the interest of democracy, and what was clearly the intent of the Constitution, that the government, the governing party, would have said, give the shall we say benefit of the doubt, right? Or where the water is muddied, the party, the NRP, should have been allowed to make that choice.
Well,
because
I don't follow you. You are saying the same person who you do not want to have more concentration of power, that he be the one to determine or to decide who should do this?
But that's what I'm saying is, in the interest of democracy.
Right, but the point is nonetheless that you are still giving the same person or office power, more power, which you said the office or the person should not have. You agree with that?
Yeah, yeah, but right now they obviously have that power. So what I'm saying is, because simply because you have the power to do something doesn't mean that you should exercise it to benefit you.
No, but Caller, what you're doing, right? What the ordinance is saying, you are accusing the Premier of creating an ordinance or the adjustment to it, and as a consequence giving himself more power so that he decides.
Right.
Right. Walk with me. And when you now are suggesting what should be done, you are giving the same Premier or the office the same power that you think that he should not have.
Yes, but the reality is he is the one with the power to make the change.
You know, at this time I'll give you a light moment, right? Can I give you a light moment?
Yeah.
I was interviewing someone one time, and this power thing, I think people use these words sometimes just to inflame things. So the person was arguing that I'm going to change the needle to protect the record. The person was arguing that Mr. Stanley has too much power. And he is making the point all the time. And he says no one man should have so much power. And then I ask, between Mr. Stanley and Naya, who has the most power, do you think? He says Naya. I said, and you think that Naya has more power than Stanley? You think that Naya has too much power? He says no.
Why did he say Naya had the power in the first place?
Now, follow me carefully. He says no one man should have so much power. And let us use numbers to make it clearer. But Stanley has 10 ounces of power. And he says Stanley has too much power because he has 10 ounces. I ask him, between Mr. Stanley and Naya, who has the most power? He says Naya, meaning that Naya has more than 10. I asked him then, does Naya have too much power? He says no.
Well, why would he say no? And he just said that he had more.
That's where the light moment comes in.
but I am looking at the practicalities of the thing, right? We want a solution. It obviously created a problem. We want a solution to the problem. Don't we all agree that the intent of the Constitution was to provide a balance on that commission? I think everybody would say yes to that, right? Do you think there's consensus on that?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So you don't think that, I know being magnanimous is not a feature of most politicians, but don't you think that the Premier, realizing democracy, you need these checks and balances, right? Should therefore make the concession and give the opposition, the opposition meaning the NRP, the essential authority to appoint somebody there?
Okay, let me ask you this. Who had the essential authority to determine who will be the leader of the opposition?
Well, according to the Constitution, they both have to support that person, whoever the leader is going to be, the leader of the opposition.
Caller, let me take this call, and then maybe you can call back. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Very well. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hello. Good evening, Webbo.
Yes.
Is this the first time after an election that we are faced with this situation? Webbo,
When you said this situation, meaning what?
having to determine who is the leader, who will be the leader of the opposition.
No, we had a couple of instances before, beginning with when the NRP was in government and the CCM in government and so on. So we had a couple of instances, I think.
Yes, I want to point out, Webbo,
Yes.
after every election, we are faced with this situation. We have to go back to the Constitution and find out how we go about doing it. It works every time up until this time. You're blaming the Constitution, or you're going to blame the actors?
Well, you know, caller, I made a hypothetical which Naya conceded to. In some instances, some people can either say, well, you walk along with the rules, or you change the rules, or you change the people or something. You know what I'm saying?
I really don't understand what this last caller is all about. I mean, he's trying to make a plaster for the situation, and we are not have to do our work.
Yeah, but I think he himself realized it, and if you give me a little credit, that's why I, told him, as I normally do with Stanley sometimes, let's take a break. Yeah.
Very well.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, okay. All right. Right, Stanley?
Well,
You realize what I did, right?
yes.
Right.
What I'm saying is that the Premier saw the importance of the wording and its application, and as a result, he came up with the wording simply because of the absence of the truly designated opposition.
What I want to know, as I asked the caller, and I asked Naya, and Naya said, well, he didn't have anything. What I want to know, you said the Premier should not do it that way. What I genuinely want to know, how should he have done it?
I am not in the camp of saying that the Premier should not have done it.
Because all I'm hearing is, oh, he has too much power. I
don't subscribe to that.
Work with me, which is a non-starter, because to me that is just making noise. Right?
True.
You have a problem, and that's what I was listening for. What is the alternative? What he ought to have done? Because one can reasonably argue, if it were left for the two members on the opposition to organize themselves and say, well, nominate somebody then to the commission, we have a good guidance on what will happen, correct?
Quite so.
Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yes, what I don't understand, isn't it a fact that the rule is now being changed?
Which rule?
The rule as to how the person on the Integrity Commission is appointed?
Yes, that's the amendment.
Right.
That's what they were doing, the amendment,
Right.
yes.
So you're telling me that the rule could not be amended so that the leader of the NRP couldn't have appointed that person?
Right, so
It could go both ways, couldn't it?
right, so I'm asking you, caller, who should have amended the rule to say that the leader of the NRP should be the person?
The government, the government side.
The premier, so
The parliament.
right, work with me. So, wouldn't it be the same premier who now have more power again to decide who will be the person?
So what?
But the part of the problem seems to be not so much that he made the amendment, but that he has too much power. He's exerting too much power. That seems to be the
No, they didn't know. Look at what the intent was. The intent is to constitute a proper integrity commission. The integrity commission,
but-
the intent of the commission.
Yeah, but walk with me. Let me ask you this. If the Premier decided that the leader of NRP should be the one, right, to decide, what if the other member decides, I have a problem with that?
But she can have a problem with it, but she doesn't have the majority to change the amendment.
But then the Premier again, right? You're saying that he must exercise his power.
Why not? So why not?
And that's
He's
what
exercising his
but that's
power.
what he did today.
He's exercising his power.
But that's what. But
exercise the power the right way or the wrong way.
So you think that he exercised his power today the wrong way?
Yes, because...
Okay, walk with me. Mr. Stanley thinks. Mr. Stanley, what do you think? Did he exercise it the right way?
Well, I would say that
You would say yes or no?
there are several ways to answer the
Naya,
question.
what do you think? You think that the Premier exercised his leverage the correct way today?
Yeah.
Okay. So, caller, we have a situation where you think he did it the wrong way. Naya thinks he did it the right way. So what?
So what?
Yes.
No, ultimately, he did, whether it's the right way or the wrong way, that is what he did.
So he had the call to make. So there is no problem if your opinion is he did it wrong.
No,
And
but
work with me.
can you call the right or wrong?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, no, you were the one who brought the adjective right way or wrong way, correct? Right. You said he did it the wrong way. I asked Naya the question. Naya said, I think he did it the right way. And then I asked you, so therefore what then? And then you say, well, he has the call, he make it, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's leave it there.
In my opinion, he made the wrong call.
Right, and we got you. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Hello, good evening, Webbo.
Yes.
I'd like to start off by saying, if there's no problem, if there's not a problem, do not fix it. Maybe the Premier shouldn't have done anything. The reason I say that is because the Constitution clearly states out how is it the leader of the opposition should be formed. The NRP got 2 seats because they couldn't manage the 2 seats, and I mean that's a problem created by them, not by the Constitution. The Constitution is clear. Had they manage their team, they would have had the leader of the opposition by the Constitution. Nobody could argue with that. The rules are what they are. And I really find it to be, pathetic that we are trying to fix something that's not even there. As you said earlier, and I was thinking that all along, had they got 3 seats and they couldn't manage them, how would they run the country? That's what we would be left with. That's what we would be left with. We would have been in a sorry situation. Good evening.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Stanley.
Well, what I found is that the Premier brought the appropriate wording to fix the problem, and consequently, the problem has been fixed. Now, because of the absence of the authority, I repeat, the absence of the authority, because of the unique or peculiar situation we have as a result of the last election, the problem exists, and as a result, we must be able to have a working relationship
Put another way.
regarding the government.
Put another way. If you didn't want the Premier to have that authority now to make the other appointment, then organize yourself and have a leader on your side. How about that? Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert. I enjoy the program. I'm listening and following and paying attention. In my opinion, in my view, and looking at the whole scenario, what the Constitution says and that type of thing, it gives me the conclusion, my opinion, that the opposition has given the Premier all the power, in the sense that they fail to agree in their own party as who should be leader of the opposition and what have you, and all their things. So I hold them responsible. I feel that today the Prime Minister, the Premier, they did what they had to do. And then you could still listen and hear the passionate cry of those on the government benches asking them to put things together and move forward doing the right thing. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. That is, something like the hypothetical that I put, that if we are putting things on the table and the both of you, Mr. Stanley, can't organize yourself to put anything on the table, you either want me to stop the show, right? Or what? Then I have to put them on. Correct?
The show must go on.
The show must go on in some manner. You have an opportunity to put things on the table. You're telling me for whatever reason you're not doing it, and then when I try to keep the show running, then you say that I trying to be. I don't get it.
Give yourself the power.
Yeah. Well, but that's okay, because the previous caller we had, I understood him. I like him. I work with him because in the end he said, well, the point is, I think the Premier is wrong. But he has the call. And that's the bottom line.
And because of the disorganization, they throw the ball into the Premier's court, and therefore the Premier had to make the call.
And then basically, are you still arguing then, like the Republicans did? Still don't do anything. But something has to be done.
Something has to be done, and it must be done.
Just like with in the United States, when the Republicans couldn't form a majority to keep the government open, the Democrats joined in and said, well, okay, let's get a thing going and let's get the government open. Keep the government open. This stuff got to be done.
It has to be done.
If you have the authority to do it and you do not want to do it, what are you going to do? Stop the whole train?
The train has to go. And therefore, you have to become pragmatists. Do whatever is necessary for the show to go on. Therefore, the Premier, because of the disorganization, because of the disunity, the Premier had to make the call. And therefore, the show is going on. The train is rolling. So, the wording is apropos. So, the Premier did what he had to do regarding the composition of the wording and get the bill passed.
Naya.
As I say, Webbo, I compliment the island administration with that thoughtful gesture. That makes sense. To me, it brings life to the bill. In a sense that because the commissions need to be properly in place, right? The Integrity Commission, and I think he cannot affect the Constitution by saying changing the way in which the leader of the opposition becomes the leader, and so he attempts to change the rules as it relates to the ordinance that the commission can have its members. I don't see anything wrong with that at all, to be quite honest, because as we have said earlier in the program, Mr. Stanley, the bill is of great importance. But again, in the stream of politics, and it's a kind of thing, and that's why I say there's going to be serious consequences, because as that caller just said, Webbo, the fact that the NRP did not get their house right, in effect, they have surrendered a lot of power to the other side. They have strengthened the Premier and his authority in the house, and so, I mean, what the Premier did to me, it wasn't extra thing to really benefit him in particular. I can't see that. I see he have modified the wording to give effect to an important legislation.
Still, what is not clear to me though, Naya, is what, and I asked the caller, what the persons who did not want it to be done that way, how are they suggesting it to be done? The caller said, well, you should have given it to the leader of the party. By the way, in the house, they don't recognize parties, They recognize elected members. But so that's another point. But how do you answer the question then? When you give it to that person to choose, when the other member says, I don't agree with that. Because remember, that's the same sort of thinking that brought the impasse.
Yeah.
You have to have pragmatists, and with pragmatists, they have to bring the practical application to solve a problem.
So what are the offerings? I mean, I really like to know. The one caller said, give it to the leader of the party.
No, he's completely
right. So what is another suggestion then?
You have to find a way to ensure.
What is that way?
that way is forcing them to get organized.
Okay, and how long will you give them to get organized?
Well, it might be forever. But if
Okay.
you don't, then you have
Well, we don't have forever.
You-
In fact, we're out of time. This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock, following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Bradley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. This is your voice in the community. Talk that get results. You all have a wonderful evening. We don't have forever.
The views and opinions expressed in the preceding program are solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the